Should you cross-link or should you catalyze your coating? So I used from Centurion Coatings, I use their 1107 primer, which is a primer that has to be catalyzed when you're using it, and it's catalyzed at 15%, has a pot life of 3 hours. And then I top coat with their 28 series line of products, and they are 2K polys, and they range from anywhere from flat satin to semi-gloss to gloss. So you have an option, and I highly recommend the flat. It's absolutely amazing. But should you catalyze these coatings or cross-link these coatings? When it comes to the primer is a tanning and dye blocking primer, and it does have to be catalyzed regardless of how you use it. You catalyze it at 15%. You don't have the option to cross-link it. It does need to be catalyzed, and that catalyzation process is going to give a tannin blocking and dye migration bleed. It'll stop that. You got to let it set for 8 hours, and then it's also going to give you better chemical resistance and water resistance. Now, when it comes to the top coat, should you cross-link or catalyze the top coat? So you do have the option. It's a 2K product that you can do either. So what does cross-linking do? Cross-linking, adding a cross-linker at 15% is going to add more chemical resistance, and it's going to add more water resistance to your coating, which is pretty important when it comes to cabinet coating, vanity coating in bathrooms, and it could even make a difference on an entertainment center. So cross-linking adds chemical resistance, and it adds more water resistance. And chemical resistance is important because there's a lot of cleaners, a lot of chemicals underneath people's kitchen sinks. So do you really need to cross-link the 2800 series 2K poly? That 2K poly, just in talking to the chemist who designed it and created it for Centurion Coatings, he doesn't think you need to cross-link it because it's already a superior product to begin with, and he doesn't think it adds a whole lot by cross-linking it, but he does highly recommend catalyzing it. And catalyzing it is a different process. Cross-linking it, when you cross-link it, you can, it doesn't add a hardener to it, so the product doesn't harden. It doesn't have a pot life where it's going to harden, where it could ruin your sprayer, or you cannot use the product after the pot life ends. You can take a product that's been catalyzed, and the pot life would be over 5 to 6 hours, and then you can cross-link it again. So I think if I said that wrong, it's cross-linking. So if you cross-link it and the pot life ends, you can cross-link it. You just have to add a certain amount of the product back in, fresh product, and then you can cross-link it. It's one of the beauties of a cross-linker, but you're not adding a whole lot to the product, and you're spending a lot more money cross-linking it. So it's better just to either use it 1K right out of the can or the pot, or to catalyze it. Now we'll talk a little bit about what catalyzing does to the product itself. Okay, so the 2800 series products in all that line, the flat, satin, semi-gloss, gloss products, you can catalyze them, and catalyzing is adding a hardener to the product, which adds a pot life to it. So it's there's a 5 to 6 hour pot life, so there's a window that you got to make sure that you clean your sprayer out before that pot life ends, because you could ruin your product, because what it does, the product starts to harden even in the can. So it gets super hard, and you would actually ruin your sprayer. So catalyzing, what it does, you're adding a hardener to the paint, and it gives you better bonding capabilities. It makes the product harder. Like a cross-linker, it adds chemical resistance, it adds water resistance, it does add chip, mar, and scratch resistance. And then by catalyzing it, you're actually adding to the product a better look and a better feel to the product. So there is a difference when you've got a lot of experience with these coatings. When you catalyze it, you definitely can feel the difference and see the difference between a catalyzed product. When you catalyze it, you have an extremely superior product compared to what's actually in the can, and that's something that you should just always do to your cabinets, vanities, and even entertainment centers, these things that are high traffic units that you're actually painting and coating. We're actually coating them. We're not painting them because we're using a polyurethane. So you're coating them with a 2K poly. So it's really good to do, good practice. It's good for your customer. It's good for you for confidence when it comes to warranties. So you're less likely to have warranty related issues, especially like us. We're given a guarantee of 5 years, on all of our cabinet repaints and coatings. So it's highly, highly recommended to catalyze your top coats. So do you need to catalyze your, every coat that you do? If you catalyze your first coat that's going over the top of your primer coat, or it's going over the top of a previous coating that you sanded and created a mechanical bond, that by catalyzing it, you're going to get a superior bond to your surface, and that's extremely, giving you some confidence, that you're going to get a good bond. It's not going to come off, and that's extremely important to me. Now, if you don't catalyze the next coat that goes over the top of that, you do need to sand in between, coats, because you do have a catalyzed product that's hardening extremely fast. So you not only sand so you get a mechanical bond in between coats, but that way you can eliminate and see any imperfections as you're sanding over your inspection light, and you're continuing to create an extremely flat finish, which is very important when you're doing high-end coatings. You always want to sand to make sure that that finish is extremely flat. But if you don't top coat your final coat, then you're not going to be getting that chip resistance on the top coat. You're not going to be getting the chemical resistance. You're not going to be getting that moisture resistance on that top coat. So it really is important to catalyze each coat. I know that's you are limited by a pot life, and then when that pot life expires, that product's not any good anymore. But if you do proper planning, it's typically gonna work out for you. You're gonna be able to get all your coats in and get them done same day. Or if you can't get all your coats in, you always just catalyze what you're gonna need to use that day. So if I think I'm only gonna use a half gallon, I'm gonna catalyze a half gallon and then spray that half gallon. If I need more, I'll pour off and catalyze some more. So one tip when it comes to catalyzing your product, you're always going to want to leave a certain amount left behind for touch-ups. That you should, like in a quart can, do a little bit of pour off, because you never want to end up with nothing to not be able to do touch-ups with. So that's a kind of just a professional tip. Always leave something behind for touch-ups, because once you do catalyze it, whatever's left the next day, it's going to be in the can. It's going to be completely hard and non-usable.